Sir Alex Ferguson is still remembered as the man who turned Manchester United into a dynasty. He built legends, he created winners, and he destroyed opponents with ruthless precision. But behind the trophies and titles, there is another side of his legacy, a quieter one, more uncomfortable, because even Ferguson, the greatest manager English football has ever known, failed some of the most talented players who ever walked into Old Trafford. Young stars arrived with huge expectations, natural ability, confidence, the belief that they were destined for greatness. Yet under Ferguson's rule, they collapsed. Some lost their confidence, some lost their place, some left without ever becoming what they were supposed to be. So what went wrong? Was it the pressure, the system, or the man himself? And with that, we come to the list. 5 names, 5 stories, and 5 talents Sir Alex Ferguson could never turn into winners. Shall we begin with number 5? Number 5, Diego Forlán. When Diego Forlán arrived at Manchester United in 2002, he was supposed to be the future, a relentless striker from South America, quick, intelligent, technically gifted. Sir Alex Ferguson believed he had found the perfect forward for the modern game, someone who could replace aging stars and lead the next generation. At first, everything looked right. Forlán trained hard. He ran more than anyone else. Teammates spoke about his attitude with respect, but goals never came easily. And at Old Trafford, patience is a luxury few players are given. Every missed chance felt heavier than the last. Every shot that hit the post was followed by a collective sigh from the crowd. Slowly, confidence began to disappear. Insiders later revealed that Forlán started overthinking everything. Instead of reacting instinctively, he hesitated. Instead of trusting his talent, he doubted it. Under Ferguson, doubt was dangerous. The manager believed pressure revealed character. If a player could not survive criticism, he did not belong at Manchester United. Behind closed doors, the atmosphere became tense. Witnesses recall moments where Forlán stayed behind in training, repeating finishing drills alone, trying to fix something that was no longer technical but psychological. The turning point came quietly, not in a dramatic argument, not in a public fallout. Ferguson simply stopped trusting him. Fewer starts, shorter appearances, and eventually silence. Forlán left United without bitterness, but with unanswered questions. Only later in Spain did the world see what he truly was: a lethal scorer, a complete striker, a Ballon d'Or contender at the World Cup. It wasn't that Diego Forlán lacked talent or work ethic or intelligence. He lacked time, and under Sir Alex Ferguson, time was something you had to earn immediately. His failure was not loud, it was quiet, and that made it even more painful. But as disappointing as Forlán's story was, the next name on this list hurt Ferguson far more, because this time the talent didn't just struggle, it never truly belonged. Number 4, Juan Sebastián Verón. When Juan Sebastián Verón signed for Manchester United in 2001, it felt like a statement, not just a transfer, a declaration of power. He arrived as one of the most intelligent midfielders in world football, a conductor, a leader, the heartbeat of Lazio's Serie A dominance. Sir Alex Ferguson believed Verón was the final piece, the man who could control Europe's biggest nights, the player who would give United elegance without losing authority. But from the very beginning, something felt wrong. English football was faster, more chaotic, less forgiving. Verón needed space to think, time to dictate, moments of calm. Manchester United offered none of that. Insiders later revealed that Ferguson struggled to define Verón's role. Was he a deep playmaker, an attacking midfielder, a luxury player in a league that punished luxury? Week after week, Verón was moved. Different positions, different instructions, different expectations. And with every change, his influence faded. Witnesses remember moments of visible frustration. Verón gesturing for the ball, only to see it bypass midfield entirely. Long passes, direct football, a rhythm completely opposite to what made him great. Behind the scenes, doubts grew, not about his talent, but about his suitability. Ferguson demanded intensity without compromise. Verón delivered intelligence without protection. The breaking point came quietly, as it often did under Ferguson. No public argument, no dramatic fallout, just a decision. Verón was no longer central to the project. His confidence slipped, his authority vanished. When he left Manchester United, many called him a failure, a symbol of wasted money, a cautionary tale. But those who watched closely knew the truth was more complex. Juan Sebastián Verón didn't lose his ability. He lost his environment. Back in Italy, he thrived again. Control returned, respect followed. His story wasn't about weakness, it was about incompatibility. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, systems mattered more than stars. And if a system couldn't protect a genius, the genius would be sacrificed. But the next name on this list wasn't a question of system or speed. It was a story of expectation, pressure, and collapse. When Kleberson signed for Manchester United in 2003, he arrived with a golden label, World Cup winner, Brazilian international, a midfielder trusted by Luis Felipe Scolari on football's biggest stage. Sir Alex Ferguson believed he was signing a ready-made champion, a player forged under pressure, someone who understood what it meant to win. At first, expectations were enormous. Brazilian flair mixed with tactical intelligence. A modern midfielder for a modern Manchester United. But reality arrived quickly, and it arrived harshly. English football was unforgiving, faster, more physical, more relentless than anything Kleberson had experienced. Insiders later revealed that Ferguson expected immediate impact. There was little time for adaptation, little room for excuses. Kleberson struggled to impose himself, not because he lacked technique, but because he lacked presence. Witnesses recall moments where he seemed lost in the chaos of Premier League matches, late tackles, second balls, constant pressure. Confidence began to fade, and once confidence disappeared, so did Ferguson's patience. Behind closed doors, frustration grew. Training sessions became quieter, instructions became shorter, trust slowly evaporated. The manager had signed a World Cup winner, but what he needed was a warrior. Injuries made everything worse. Stop-start rhythm, no continuity, no momentum. Eventually, Kleberson became a peripheral figure, not disliked, not publicly criticized, simply forgotten. When he left Manchester United, the narrative was brutal, a flop, a waste, a mystery. Yet the truth was more uncomfortable. Kleberson was not a bad player. He was a specialist built for international tournaments, structured systems, clear roles. Manchester United under Ferguson demanded something else entirely. Intensity without pause, authority without hesitation. And in that environment, even a World Cup winner could disappear. But the next name on this list wasn't a player who struggled quietly. He was young, he was hyped, and his departure would come back to haunt Manchester United for years. When Anderson arrived at Manchester United in 2007, he was supposed to be unstoppable. European Golden Boy, Champions League winner with Porto, a Brazilian midfielder with power, technique, and fearlessness. So Alex Ferguson didn't just sign him, he protected him, he defended him, and he believed Anderson could dominate English football for a decade. In his early days, the signs were promising: explosive runs, aggressive pressing, a physicality rare for a Brazilian midfielder. Insiders remember Ferguson calling him a big game player, someone built for nights that mattered, someone who could handle pressure. But slowly, cracks appeared. Anderson's discipline began to slip. Fitness became an issue, focus wavered. Behind the scenes, staff noticed a pattern: weight problems, poor recovery habits, a lifestyle that didn't match Ferguson's standards. Witnesses recall Ferguson repeatedly giving him chances, more chances than most players would ever receive, because talent like Anderson's was rare. But patience has a cost. On the pitch, his influence faded, the explosiveness disappeared, the intensity dropped. What made Anderson dangerous was also what betrayed him. He relied on physical power. When that power declined, there was no second identity. Injuries followed, confidence collapsed, and Ferguson's trust slowly dissolved. Yet publicly, the manager remained loyal. He never humiliated Anderson, never destroyed his reputation. Instead, he reduced him to a squad player, a name on the bench, a reminder of what could have been. By the time Anderson left Manchester United, the verdict was harsh: a disappointment, a wasted career. But insiders tell a different story. Anderson didn't fail because he lacked ability. He failed because elite football demands obsession. And under Sir Alex Ferguson, obsession was mandatory. Talent opened the door, discipline kept it open. Anderson had the first, but never mastered the second. And now we arrive at the final name on this list, the most painful one. Because this time, Manchester United didn't just lose a talent, they lost a future superstar. Number one, Paul Pogba did play under Sir Alex Ferguson, but he never truly belonged to him. When Pogba arrived at Manchester United as a teenager, he was seen as a rare project. Tall, powerful, technically gifted, a midfielder who looked years ahead of his generation. Inside Carrington, coaches spoke about his confidence, sometimes admiration, sometimes concern. Sir Alex Ferguson believed Pogba had immense potential, but potential alone was never enough, not at Manchester United, not under his rule. Pogba was given opportunities, minutes in cup competitions, appearances in the Premier League, a taste of first-team football. But what Pogba wanted was belief, a clear message, a future defined in advance. Ferguson believed in something else entirely: earning trust slowly, respecting seniority, waiting your turn behind experienced players. Insiders later revealed a growing disconnect. Pogba felt ready, his entourage felt impatient. They wanted guarantees Ferguson refused to give. To the manager, no teenager dictated terms, no matter how talented, no matter how promising. Behind the scenes, tension increased quietly. There was no public argument, no dramatic fallout, just distance, training sessions where Pogba stood out physically but remained peripheral strategically, moments where he impressed yet was never fully embraced. For Ferguson, Pogba represented a risk, not in ability, but in control, and control was non-negotiable. When Pogba chose to leave Manchester United on a free transfer, the decision felt insignificant at the time. Academy players came and went. The machine kept moving, but football has a cruel memory. In Italy, Pogba was given freedom, responsibility, trust, and he exploded. Confidence turned into dominance. Potential turned into power. He became one of the most complete midfielders in world football. Looking back, this story is not about failure. It is about incompatibility. Under Sir Alex Ferguson, Pogba was given minutes, but never belief. And Ferguson was never willing to wait long enough to see what Pogba could become. Neither side was wrong, and that is what makes this story painful. Because sometimes greatness doesn't collapse under pressure, it slips away quietly before anyone realizes what has been lost. Looking back, this list reveals an uncomfortable truth. Sir Alex Ferguson built one of football's greatest dynasties. But even dynasties leave scars. Forlán needed time. Verón needed protection. Kleberson needed clarity. Anderson needed discipline. Pogba needed belief. Ferguson offered none of those unconditionally, because under his rule, Manchester United was not a place to discover yourself. It was a place to survive. Insiders often say Ferguson didn't manage talent, he managed pressure. If a player broke under it, the system moved on without regret. And that is the twist. These players didn't fail because they were weak. They failed because Ferguson refused to bend, even when bending might have changed everything. Yet this same ruthlessness is why he succeeded, why United dominated, why standards never dropped. So was Ferguson wrong? Or was this simply the price of greatness? Football remembers winners. It forgets the almosts. And somewhere between trophies and regrets, these 5 stories remind us of a brutal reality. At Manchester United under Sir Alex Ferguson, talent opened the door, but only mentality decided who was allowed to stay.